here, and you're not even here yet. So, yeah, we have a stream title today, which is kind of nice. I always like having stream titles. You guys, we are just kicking off the month too, so I am, since we're talking about small government, we're talking about paychecks a little bit today. If you guys want us to support the stream, any super chats, any of those super gifts, guys, super easy to support me, super easy to support the channel. And yeah, I'm gonna put a poll up, and then we're gonna pin a message as well. Let's say, should Trump or PMs or anyone be involved in local politics? Never, not often. And let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Does time have these quantitative components? I guess now it does. 5 to 7, I guess. Not usually. And we're gonna go 8 to 10. Cool, guys. So I put up a poll. If you guys don't understand the poll, I don't know. Maybe I messed it up. You know, I'm not saying I'm some great data scientist researcher, but I'm asking when Donald Trump or other PM should be involved in politics in your city. We're seeing this weird push where Donald Trump's, you know, very savvy guy, right? You know, let's give him credit here. The president, very savvy in terms of culture, society. Politically, I wouldn't really say he's that strong, but in terms of just getting in there, you know, when things are going well, Donald Trump knows how to get in there when the getting's good. You know, it's maybe when he thrives best. So yeah, why not work together if we see that with the president? Give him kind of the correct space to work in. I don't think that's the Iran war. I don't think it's Venezuela. I don't think it's big $1 trillion budgets. He doesn't want to talk about it. Hey, what's going on, Feroz? Good to see you, man. Great to see you. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm wondering if in your local politics, when you see politicians that are working for the big government, the big G government, you know, not administrators, not local bureaucrats, local technocrats, whatever it is. Yeah, heck yeah, dude. Yeah, we're maybe gonna get a little busier in a little bit, but nice to see you while we're all here. Yeah. Yeah. And it's been a couple days too. I haven't seen you in a while. You know, and so I know we usually XY channel. This is where it comes up. So great to see you. Great to see you. Yeah, good to see you. Hey, what's going on, Neat Room? And Rahul, good to see you as well. Hello. I'm gonna put a pinned message up. Did you even graduate high school? Yeah, I think I did. I went to a good high school. I had I'm a rich white male. I had every opportunity in the world, is what I've been told to say. But yeah, I grew up in the place I live. There's aerospace companies, there's compute companies. Yeah. So, you know, just the main thing was having friends. I had a lot of friends that valued education. Our parents, right? Our parents valued education. I went to a private high school for a couple of years. I went to it was a Catholic school, not that fancy or anything, but it was a private high school for a couple of years. And then I finished. Actually, the public high schools where I'm from are just as good or even better. You know, I had some of my friends in high school, a couple of them actually. A lot of them ended up going to Ivy League schools, schools like George Washington, MIT, UPenn. So yeah, well, I think decentralization of the U.S. is a good thing, and federal government having power over the country is a good thing. It's just that Trump is not a good president. Yeah, great point. Yeah, I don't know what you're gonna do. You know, when I don't know, is Donald Trump eternally not a good president, or is it that anyone in that role can't really manage the give take? If we say that, like, societies need government, and so when government should be there, it's a plus one, and it's a plus one. Or your feelings and who you are as you're working in that system that has the constraints of government, you're a better person for it, right? This isn't a boardroom. This isn't Wolf of Wall Street. So your values going out and expressing themselves, without government. You could, at the end of the day, there's always going to be people trying to cheat the system. There's always going to be people trying to who get bad ideas in their head. They make a mistake or something like this. But yeah, maybe government is a normalizing force, meaning that there's this sort of the common good, the common interest, the public interest. We can create these different sort of almost like tiered layers of what it's like working in government. Huge important idea. And then it's also about the utility. What are you actually going to produce or get out of that situation? What is a good person? What is an inept or incompetent leader? If we're starting with skepticism, or what is a good one going to do? So you went to a Catholic school and then became a atheist Buddhist. Yeah. I became a Buddhist an atheist like my sophomore year, and then I became a Buddhist when I was working in a call center. Yeah. So I don't have a reason to complain, but yeah, when I was in a call center, I had this little Buddha statue. I had a little bamboo plant on my desk, and I had a copy of the Tao Te Ching. So I was a Taoist and then a Buddhist. I went to high school. We're going to for the bathroom was hard. I'm curious, are you aware of Professor Zhang? Yeah. I like Professor Zhang. I know he's gotten some hate online, but I don't care about people's... Look, if you're making content online still, I don't care anything about your personal life. I don't know you personally. And I've gotten to learn from Professor Zhang. His community's awesome. I think he's got a goodwill toward political problems. Maybe he is, who knows? Maybe I don't know him personally, so maybe he is a con artist or a scam artist. We disagree though, right? We do disagree, but like it's not substantive. It's substantive in the sense that debating, like if I were to debate Professor Zhang, I would debate him on how useful imperialism or Christendom is to predict the West's behaviors. We would disagree about that. But yeah, I'm from Bali, Indonesia. Have a great day. Hey, shout out to you guys. I don't know. It's a Jordan 1. I got it as a gift, and I thought my sense was it looked good in the studio, so I've got it set up there. Free Israel. Yeah, someone brought up the big House resolution to include Israel and U.S. defense spending yesterday, so we're not talking about that too much today. Maybe later tonight we'll do more on that, but the title of the stream is here. Let me put this up here in case we missed it. So let's yap about this a little bit. There's the poll question. Let's see. So yeah, I'm going to say, ask me anything for today's poll. We'll do a little bit of a party. And yeah. And there's kind of one of the topics. If you guys have any questions about this, you want to ask me anything. Small financial mistakes, small governments, socialism, and conservatism. So we're kind of thinking in terms of like labor parties, conservatives. Conservative parties are often called such, national parties, things like this. I was raised as a non-religious Jew, and high school was terrible, and the elementary and junior high school was the same. Cool, Ben. Yeah. Are you conservative? I have some conservative leanings, but I vote progressive Democrat. Yeah. In party politics, I would be considered a Democrat. Yeah. And yeah, my Catholic school was all right. There was a Jesuit high school. In Catholicism, Jesuits are a smaller subset of Catholics who a little stricter on education. It's the same church teachings and stuff but it didn't used to be as big of a deal. You didn't used to have to know all these obscure little lines of text in, I call it the Seus Deus Preus, Seus Deus Preus, Seus Deus Preus. You didn't have to used to know all this weird stuff to be a Catholic. And it's still true, right? You would go volunteer a couple times a year, at least, and I thought that was really good this is kind of the lazy democracy stuff is, yeah, I would rather have a citizen that spent some time volunteering, with the Catholic Church at a soup kitchen 2 or 3 times, but I'm not going to be one of these lunatics online saying that you need religion in society for this reason. So that's, my conservative or evidence-based belief is that, civil society can be made a little bit stronger by religion, but it's not some like socially, yeah, it doesn't define society is what I would say. Being religious or being conservative doesn't define a society. As I grew up, my parents always told me you can be anyone you want to be. It turns out the police call that identity theft. Cool. As I grew up, my parents always told me you can be anyone you want to. Turns out, oh, I get it. It's a joke. Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's interesting. So the reason I brought up today's stream is for selfish reasons, because I'm an egotistical, rich white male. But yeah, small financial mistakes and small government. So there's two things going on. The first thing is Donald Trump. We see these leaders that fail out of geopolitics. They invite new problems for their country. They invite new problems for different areas of their country. They invite new problems for people that who maybe they voted and they said, well, here's how to represent me. And then you didn't listen to them, right? You didn't listen to the wisdom of the crowd. You didn't sort of try to understand what they're getting through. And so Donald Trump now is going around talking about farmers. He wants MAGA politicians, make America great, America first politicians to go around like rural America and all these places and say, well, here's politics in the U.S. And I'm saying, well, if this is happening, if where this comes from, this whole like, this whole like rig that you're setting up is coming from the fact that you failed out of politics on the international level, don't do it, right? Don't do it. You weren't able to do free trade stuff. You weren't able to just kind of keep that part of it in check. And so I don't even know what's going on, but you coming back in again. So you coming in again after you failed free trade. You failed to convince Russia and China that the U.S. is not a threat. You failed to convince the European Union to join us in that sort of diplomatic task. But don't come into my community then and start talking about other shit, right? If you failed the one job that you had, don't take on other jobs. So keep MAGA out of politics. Make America great. Keep the GOP, these fake conservatives. They want to dictate how women live. They want to dictate how you live. Keep them out of my community, right? So this is small government, but there's also small financial mistakes. I'm shopping for a new PC, and I'll come say what's up in the comments in just a second. I see Flux and Full Time. Great to see you guys. But I'm shopping for a new PC, and anyone who's lucky enough to have like a nice tablet. Right now I have a Chromebook, and I don't really want to buy another. Whoa. I was going to show you guys my Chromebook. It's right here, but yeah, I've got a Chromebook and I've got my cell phone. So I'm very lucky. I've got two electronic devices. I don't really want to buy something new. But yeah, it's a $60, $4 gigabytes of RAM, Chromebook. It's hard for streaming. The cell phone, this is a great format for me, but I can't go live on like a studio or something like this on my phone. So I'm just looking to see what's around. And I'm going on Facebook Marketplace, and there's people telling me that I should pay full price for used products. And they're telling me it's because, well, we've recently cleaned this PC. Or yeah, so you have a can of air duster, right? You're telling me you have a can of air duster and you know that this is a device that uses that. And so small financial mistakes. I know it sounds silly, maybe I'm you guys are too old or too young to hear this stuff again. But it's one of these absurd things when you're asking about information in the marketplace and people being dishonest, lying, and covering up their own mistakes by trying to sell it back to you. I don't think this is disconnected from socialism and conservatism or social democracy. It's not disconnected from what a just or honest person is like. And yeah, I don't think we need to financialize everything, but it's one of those things. If we look at our own financial mistakes, hey, what's going on, 1, 2, 3, boy? If we're looking to learn from our own mistakes, make our own decisions in the first place, maybe, instead of asking Uncle Sam, instead of asking, Uncle Jeff Bezos or Timu to make our choices for us, it's very weird when we cannot even do those things on like peer-to-peer marketplaces. You might say it's supposed to be more random, but it's selfishness, it's greed, and it's stupidity, right? So you're a dumb, greedy person. That's what you're all, the person who I'm, And I don't want to think of people. This is what really grinds my gears. This is what really grinds my gears is I don't want to think of someone as a dumb, selfish person. Yet, if you behave as a dumb, selfish person for long enough, how can I not think that if I buy a computer or I go to vote for Spencer Pratt or something, how can I not, how can I, I vote for a reality television star, a former athlete, but you yourself behave as a dumb, selfish person for long enough, I'm starting to think my dollars are going to a dumb, selfish person. And so there is something normative or directional. There is something that seems political or social in some small sense about finance, about money, and about small government, and about our ideology, our identity as conservatives, as socialists, as democratic socialists, as people in a democracy, just looking at the party politics. For battery's sake, buy new. Hail the federal checks. Yeah, absolutely. You got to grind them chickens out. You got to keep the factory turning. And these dumbasses, no offense, because I'm a rich white male. I used to be one of those dumbasses who would buy things without knowing what I was buying. Some of those purchases end up pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. It goes really well. But some people, a lot of people just buy dumb stuff they don't need. They buy stuff, they use it the wrong way, and it's fine, cool, whatever. I'm not in Japan. Buy the stuff you need, use it how you need it. Be smart though. Be smart. Make sure you're producing something good. Make sure if you have environmental values, use those there. But honest to God, there's no reason that these dumbass computer manufacturers need to be making all these PCs when there's plenty of good used PCs. There's plenty of ways to take care of them. And then the dumbass that buys a PC on Amazon for $600, uses it for 2 years, then wants $500 back from it. It's like, cool. Well, I told you guys this. I'm a red-blooded male. I want a big set of tits in my face or something, right? Whatever. I don't care. You can want $500 for a $600 PC. I want tits in my face. So how are we going to talk about this? What comes next, guys? What comes next? I had a boss who said that homeless people are drug addict freeloaders who don't contribute. Yeah, I think that's a really dehumanizing and cruel way to describe people he's never met. It doesn't speak to it doesn't speak to physically where that person came from. This is partially why science-based approaches in either information or theory or moral and ethical theories are important, because you wouldn't think, if you saw, let's just say there was someone, let's give him this credit, a debate tactic, very common debate tactic. You'll see this online. Let's just say you do meet a homeless person and that person is a drug addict or a freeloader. Freeloader is not a thing, but okay, so this person's a drug addict. They take Social Security or something like this. You still can't, if you were asked to morally judge that person, the way most people, their brains work, if we have a way to seem toward that situation or scenario, if that was us, if that was our family, we wouldn't be able to actually know where that one person came from. And so, yeah, without having empirical views, political views, those kinds of things, I like it. I'm a spoiled American too. Yeah. Well, guess what? This is why Donald Trump says you're probably from a rat fuck country and you're probably a lazy piece of shit. Yeah. That's what's up. That's what's up. If you say that again, I'm going to ban you from the fucking channel. So, that's the funny part, right? That's the funny part is if you guys think it's funny, there's spoiled Americans and I'm a spoiled American, you guys can get the fuck off the stream, first of all. Second of all, there's a reason the United States is incredibly wealthy. Yeah. And so if you want to come here and be disrespectful and whatever, misapply what critical race theory is or some kind of bullshit for whatever reason, that's awesome. You can go do that someplace else. I look like a more white version of Dan Bilzerian. Yeah, I don't know who Dan Bilzerian is. In a sense that you would say being pessimistic is the best way to go about things, do things that only benefit you and your circle. Unfortunately, our votes and voice is insignificant in the grand scheme. Yeah, I would point out that utilitarian theories on the surface, when we're thinking in terms of utility, we're thinking, utilitarian is ultimately, you could say it's an economic modality, or it's taking well-being to be something like economic modalities. There's a quantity, there's an amount of it. something like this. So we can say, you know, like, let's say if I like steak and eggs or something, or I'm a vegan, so I like mung beans or something like this. I can say that, well, you know, just because I like it doesn't mean that there's not the same value for other people. Just because I like it doesn't mean that there's a different value for other people. And so, you know, when I'm going out and saying, well, socially and politically, I'm supposed to be pursuing my self-interest. And this is true even in ordinary senses. Like if I work at, you know, the range of this is if I'm 36 years old, if I go get the job I really want as a fry cook, or something like this, or I'm making burgers, you know, and this is great. I get to help lead a shift, give people food, and I'd be helping to give maybe give people younger than me their first professional experience. I'd be working with other adults like myself who either never had that first chance or kind of stalled out in their career and work. So we'd get to be professionals. We just do the job. We're not changing the world or anything, but there's some value in that. There's some value in that. You know, but in some sense, if we're thinking in terms of like a utility or something like this, you know, the work experience and the value can be the same for lots of different people, right? It's all under one umbrella in some sense, if you want to think about it more objectively, even when it's our personality that's putting ourselves out there like that. Trump is the best president in history. You kind of look like I look like, oh, I've met Dixon My Ass. Yeah, Dixon My Ass is a great person. Yeah, Dixon My Ass is awesome. He really thinks this is political discourse. Cool. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, Darius, yeah, you and DOS, whoever it is, you guys can go make anti-American content. You can go make anti-person content, right? Just because of 2026 or whatever. Hey, I'm not saying don't tackle political issues. If you've got descriptions of why the US is so bad, go put them out there, right? I'd probably be interested in a lot of them from a political thought perspective, but why don't you go make that content then? I don't know. I didn't say I was going to make that content. I didn't say I was going to debate it. And yeah. Oh, I see it. Yeah. Yeah. I see it. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. President Donald Trump is the best child assaulting president in history. Yeah. Good job. Yeah. Good job. Congratulations. I'm fully American. I didn't say anything about you being American. Yeah, I didn't say anything about you being American. But cool. Yeah. You know, everybody says they're American. Everybody says they're a patriot. Everybody says America first. And yeah, sometimes it shows on people. Sometimes it shows on people. Cool. All right, we'll see you later. Oh, whoops. I didn't mean to time you out for 24 hours. I meant to hide you. Yeah, see ya. Not on this channel. If you want to come back, since I already just banned you for 24 hours, if you want to come back, we don't do that on this channel. Yeah, we're not going to be condescending to people in chat. I'm going to go get coffee, so I am going to leave for a minute here. But if you want to talk to people like they have a 60 IQ, you can go do that on someone else's channel. Remember me, I sent all those press FS. I don't know what press FS. I don't know what that is. But hey, what's going on? Press Fs. Oh, cool. Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, when you guys, I do appreciate a ton of the support. I appreciate all those. Yeah, it means a lot. I try to remember folks that support the channel. And yeah, thank you. Good to see you again. Good to see you again. And yeah, I'm glad that you're keeping track of it as well. But yeah, good to see you guys. You guys can always just ask questions. Sure. Yeah. I'm just going to give you a 24-hour timeout because if you're asking for more, that's awesome. Yeah, we talk about evidence-based politics, philosophy, political thought. I just posted about John Wise, who was a Puritan preacher. He was also one of the earliest in political thought. So our friends in Turkey or the Middle East and Pakistan may know that, yeah, there's a lot of Islamic scholars who talk about forms of government which have secular or constructed characteristics. Secular or constructed. Yeah, yeah, I didn't say that either. I appreciate it, David Solomon. I didn't say you have to support me. I didn't say you have to support me or Ducks Y, but yeah, I appreciate it. I do appreciate it. It's nice if you guys, yeah, can consider, right? I'm not telling you guys where this isn't, it's none of this, right? It's none of this. It's just what happened on the channel. There is no Book of Duck, but yeah, I appreciate it. It's very kind of you guys. Thank you for helping. Thank you. I appreciate it. Chat, you probably all have a 60 IQ. Yeah, we're trying to tone down weird internet stuff a little bit here, guys. We have a chat topic. Like, there's no rule against this. I'm not telling you guys that we have to stick to the topic. We can have fun. But yeah, we're talking about small financial mistakes, maybe small things that we've purchased that added value. I'm not telling you this is how the world has to work, but we're also talking about small government. So this is kind of US stuff, but it can be about decision making, right? In the title, we also have our Mick world, our Mick belief, basically sort of, Western delusions about where things come from, how the world works. We have some artistic gifts. We've got our communist potato. And then we also have socialism and conservatism. So we can talk about ideology and stuff too. Who do you think's going to win the finals? I don't know. Who's even playing in the finals? Who's playing in the finals right now? It's the NBA, right? Was it Steph Curry's last year? Whoops. Did my Wi-Fi shut off? Yeah, my Wi-Fi shut off on my laptop, so I can't even look it up. Sorry about that. The Knicks and the Spurs. Cool. Oh yeah, I voted for the Spurs. I'm in Phoenix. I'm not a huge Suns fan, and so we do have a huge rivalry. I watched all of the Spurs in the playoffs with the Suns back in the day with old Robert Horry. This was that, like, a really good team. It was Manu, Tony Parker, it was Tim Duncan, it was David Robinson. But yeah, I watched a bunch of that, but I would love to see the Spurs win just because I know it bug my friends a little bit. Hey, I'm that guy a little bit. When it comes to sports, I don't know. I know it's kind of rude or mean, but yeah. WWE superstar. Let's go. Yeah, slamming people down. Yeah, I used to watch WWE too, right? I used to watch WWE. So I don't hate it. I'm not a huge fan. I don't hate it either, right? When it comes to like NHL, I don't hate it. I don't love it. I know Ovechkin, I know some of these guys, Wayne Gretzky, Keith Kachuk. I used to play hockey, so I'm not like totally ignorant to it. But yeah, WWE, I used to watch Undertaker, The Rock. It was cool. We had Thursday night, right? Thursday night, but it was all my rich friends had pay-per-view. All my rich friends had cable, so they had all the wrestling channels. But I used to get to watch Thursday night SmackDown with what was it called? WWF back in the day. Yeah, I don't have any of them. I like the Bucks. Oh, nice. Yeah, Giannis was fun to watch. Giannis, yeah, he's cool. He also, Giannis is such a tale of like what, Giannis is kind of like, he's obviously a guy who knew how to win games. He could single-handedly win games for the team. And yeah, but he's also kind of a tale of like just where the NBA is at, that, we're getting perfect, not always, it's still 1 in a million. So people should appreciate that good players are still 1 in a million. But we were getting, a player like Giannis would tell you that you can have academies that are putting out NBA ready players at 18, 19 years old. And yeah. Hey, thanks, Aria. Really nice. Yeah, really nice. Cool. I heard of AI can make a virus to kill you. Yeah, I saw that there's all new computer viruses coming out from AI, and so it's something that we've been talking about for a while. I think it's weird. For like $5,000, for like $4,000, $5,000, you can get a Founders Edition, a GPU, and like mega supercomputer, teraflop, petaflop, CPUs. So that, you can have a home setup of basically an industrial server grade PC that you can run your own AI models completely out of sight from other people. So I think it's certainly worth considering, like cybersecurity, national security. This is one of the weird things, the dumb conservatives, that a lot of people, if you were a hacker, let's say you used to work for the NSA and you decided to be a white hat hacker. So you work for, who knows, the Pakistani ISI, or you work for an intelligence service anywhere in the world, MI6, and you decided to go use your talents for civil service, for God and country, and for white hat purposes, right? You're meant to stop bad actors. You're meant to oppose state level cybersecurity use, while yourself, maybe doing defensive or offensive cybersecurity. But let's say if this is you and you were to bring up national security, you might rightfully look at Donald Trump going on these escapades around the world that cost hundreds of billions of dollars and kill innocent people. And you might say, well, this is really odd to me because for $5,000 or $6,000, I know how much I can do on my own. And when there's this tech assist or there's this other tool available, I know enough to know that I can do more or less on this. I can do more or less on this. Hey, see ya, Aurora. Good to have a great day. What's your opinion on the FIFA World Cup being held in America? Yeah. What's your opinion on the FIFA World Cup being held in America? Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Great. Yeah. Soccer was a lot of fun to play growing up. Football was fun playing growing up, and yeah, it's a huge global thing now. Yeah, it's a huge, over its lifetime, it's $1 trillion industry. More than $1 trillion industry is what y'all. And yeah, so since we're talking a little bit about economic stuff, so yeah, there's always the idiots who want to capitalize and make money off you. They always want to make money off you on this stuff. Why can't you just let the guys play soccer? Or let the men and women play soccer. Why not? If you're such a moron, you want to go make money off people. No offense, not you personally, but why don't you just let people play soccer? Just enjoy the game for what it is. Whatever. Yeah, those guys in Italy, those corrupt officials, they got Silvio Berlusconi in their cell phone. These guys know enough they know how to make money off it, so let them do it, right? That's not you, that's not me. But yeah, it's exciting, hopefully some world healing. I don't know why we can't just play sports together. I don't know why we gotta point trillions of dollars of weapons and oil at each other, but there we go. Yeah. Bro, I be in the rooms, man, you don't think they fight. Hey, what's going on, Mood Flesh? Good to see you. Yeah, definitely. I can echo that sentiment 1,000 times over. Yeah, echo that sentiment 1,000 times over. Yeah, absolutely. All over the world, people get into arguments. All over the world, people be scrapping. All over the world, people be settling street beefs in the way that only people know how. Yeah, all over the world. There's drama all over the world. Did you text my girl? You texted my man? Did you texted my man? You texted my girl? Whatever. In every language too. In the US, it's, Jesus Christ comes first. I'm sure there's places in the world where it's Allah Akbar. Did you text my girl? Praise God. Did you text my girl? Read the Talmud. What have you said? What have you said to us? Whatever. You guys don't need to say that. I'll say it. Yeah. Man, did you text my girl? Yeah. Cool. I don't give a fuck, right? Yeah. But yeah, there are things that I think should rightfully piss you off. I would say that stupid petty squabbles that are misplaced in our subjective feelings that and I'm sorry, I don't have a big repertoire of both boy-girl speak or, whatever, and just human society speak, where we're all beyond identity. But yeah, so, the person who appreciates drama is usually not the person who solves that drama, which is really funny to me. These fucking idiots and morons, they want to get into these arguments on the internet, or they want to, you get in an argument in the Hardee's parking lot or the McDonald's parking lot over some nonsense. You're not the person who recognizes you're not going to solve that drama or problem, whatever it is. And yeah, cool. It's great. These are the same idiots and morons too that, they're like, oh, well, we need Christian values in schools, right? We got to teach the Bible into school So them, we got to stop them 21-year-old abortion plans, the 21-year-old abortion clinics. Cool, man. And people don't see how this is like the exact same thing. You're basically a trailer park moron who just decided to pick up a Bible. You decided to turn on your Fox News. But we're stopping murder. No, you weren't. You never have before. You're not anywhere else. You're not with nothing else. But hey, it's abortion, right? It's that big A word. So, but these idiots and morons, this is why I think we should have small considerations. Liberalism isn't, don't be a liberal, right? If you guys have norms that are negotiating, you have your values and norms that are negotiating in small ways versus economic values. Don't be like me. But I'm telling you, when I go shop online for a laptop and I get information from all these places, and then I go see these idiots, these selfish morons on Facebook Marketplace offer up, hey, you're trying to tell me I should pay $600 for a used GTX 960. Look, I'm not a computer guy. I'm not a computer scientist. I don't know the hardware. You can tell me petaflops, gigawatts, whatever it is. I'm not making fun of it. I know some of it, but not that well. But I also know that when you have a $70 or $60 graphics card installed in a used computer, it's not worth more, right? It's not worth more because you put it in the computer. It's just worth what it's worth in a used computer. So to me, it's kind of like, well, you're stopping people from getting the technology that they need or want because they're also probably idiots. They're probably also like me. They just want to go live online. Christ is King. Cool. I got something to say might be interesting to talk about. Yeah, go for it. Lion Game Dev. We've also got Lionling. We've also got a couple topics. We've got a poll up just talking about local politics, talking about whence and where Donald Trump and, your prime ministers, your labor parties, your conservatives, your ideologues, these people who say they're passionate. These people are passionate about governing your life. Let them, right? You know something others don't, right? You're in a circumstance where you can do it better than other people. So let them, right? But when it's not that time to let people do that, let's talk about limited government. Let's talk, get out, right? Get back to Washington, get back to work, asshole, right? You work for me, you work for the taxpayer. And yeah, if we don't usually talk to people like that, it's incredibly disrespectful. And so, yeah, but somebody's going to say that, right? Somebody's going to say you're not acting like a civil servant. And I would tend to agree. I tend to agree with the sentiment, let's yell at politicians. Let's be honest. USA is GAY gay. Cool. Happy Pride Month, everybody. Yeah. Shout out to you guys. Shout out. We are an allyship channel. So yeah, the colloquial, if it used to be the case you have something important to say, and so this importance would justify your use of using gay as a slur. So feel free, guys, feel free. And yeah, some people have the G pass. Others don't have the G pass. Yeah, others don't have the G pass. They haven't put in the work to have it. Yeah, negotiating norms and values, though, in a democracy is important. When we talk about limited government, and we say, well, here's the value that you need to know, jerkwad, right? The value we need to know is that there is a case where people tell you their problems more frequently, and you have the ability to either use or not use or promote or not promote public funds, as well as policy, as well as administration, and just your recognition in this role to go promote the common good, the public good, and what is just, what is in the interests of your constituents. And so saying that, well, it seems like this is it is a positive role in all senses. No one disagrees. Saying that there is a positive role. Cool. Saying that there is a positive role in government, not here, buddy, not here, right? Not here. We're not getting into trailer park disputes and beefs. No offense to trailer parks, even, right? We're not going to display our bigotry, and we're not getting into personal discussions about this kind of stuff. Hey, what's going on, Jenny? Yeah. So there is some discussion, but people need to be reminded, right? People need to be reminded that just because others invite you to talk about their problems doesn't mean you have a solution for it. Just because people talk about your problems doesn't mean there is a current or even a future context where you're going to solve that problem for them. It also doesn't mean that that doesn't exist. But in what sense? In what sense is this clearly defined? Is there clearly a space between people, procedure, policies, all these types of things? When we talk about human nature as competitive, and we say, look, we also know going into this that naturally security is going to be a greater concern than other things. Security, our own lives are all going to be greater concerns than other things to most people. And in all times and all ways, some of us will also just choose to identify how we frame all of this problem, or how we frame it at certain times, how we frame this at certain times, when and where and how and why, right? When and where and how and why. When we talk about political science, we talk about politics, we talk about 100 million person YouTube audience. There's 2 billion people on this platform. I'm a politics streamer because there's 100 million people that want to talk about politics and political science. Yeah, right. Not really, but a little bit. I considered it, but here we go, right? So when people are negotiating or discussing how they're going to promote the common good, or what issues they're going to talk about, are we talking about economics and utility, or are we talking about values? Are we talking about ideas and thought? Are we talking about what it means when things collapse? Is everything specific and judged? Are we intuiting things enough? Are we using intuition and judgment to negotiate and discuss the political outlay? Are we talking about justice in the first place? Self-pride just tells me you're cool. Thanks, James. Appreciate it. Yeah, you can send a red super chat if you want. Hey, I'm at the beginning of my YouTube month. If you want to send me some money, feel free. Yeah. Hey, I'm doing okay. I'm alive, right? I've been told I'm a rich white male and I don't need money. So cool. You guys are saying what I say back in just a different way. Yeah, just a different way. But yeah, whatever. That's our society. So small financial mistakes. At some point we ask people to pay for our mistakes. If we're not thinking about personhood and beinghood first, everything becomes such a consequential, war of all against all and equal sum sort of problem. It's all equal, zero sum problems, and everything comes down. It's like, well, in the fundamentally in the first place, we didn't judge based upon, if we're not judging based upon the common good, the recognition of well-being, we're not judging based on the recognition of what a political life is, what anyone owes to anyone, what may be owed to anyone on this earth in a natural sense. What are we even talking about in the first place? I'm not going to convince any of you guys to see the world like I see it. However, it's very odd. It's very odd when, practically speaking, in the political sense, all I can ask is like, well, is someone like me, is someone like former President Barack Obama, is someone like Kamala Harris, would we be qualified to lead a country? Would we be qualified to lead a meeting that's consequential and grave about politics? Would we be qualified to lead a meeting diplomatically? Are we misplaced when you put us with economists? Are we misplaced when you put us with military strategists? Are we misplaced when you put us in the actual room to discuss the words and the meaning of justice in the practical sense? Does this actually help us move forward toward equal sum cooperative solutions? And when it's the case that competition comes first, when there are trade-offs, that are clearly economic, when there's trade-offs that are clearly about norms and values, does this put us in a position to contextualize those and to get people on board, with the shift that will occur? I remember voting for Kamala Harris. I voted for environmental justice. I voted for women's rights. I voted for a Latino candidate, a Latinx candidate. I voted for Madam President. And I voted that Arizona shouldn't be talking about banning abortion because the government allowed you. You psychopaths, get out of my fucking country, right? Get out of my country with your policy. You guys can go live in the old Orthodox world, right? You guys can go and see how that's going for them, right? And so, cool. Yeah, hands control of that's not accurate. Google sucks. That's not accurate. So I'm not going to talk about that with you because I don't think you're qualified to talk about that. So if you want to come back after there's another 6 months of internet babble on whatever it is, NDAA 224578910, tell me about it. Or either that or you're way over my head on it. So man, I really wanted to talk about the topic though, small financial mistakes. I really wanted to talk about the actual topic I put up on screen, but fuck me, right? I really wanted to talk about small financial mistakes, small government, conservatism, and socialism. And so ideologies, identity, coming back down to small or large financial decisions, mistakes, small and large government decisions in economic and normative terms. What does it mean? What should we take away from it? Cool. Yeah, that sounds like a very reasonable position. Yeah, that sounds like a reasonable position. Yeah, in political thought, this is distilled down to really rich, large, expansive spaces of positive liberty is one way it's phrased. Positive liberty is one of the things when people look at a society and you'd say, well, these guardrails are partially about there being more basic guarantees in a society. Sometimes it's liberty. People talk about liberty and things like this, but it's traditionally more applicable in positive and negative freedom. So weighing that conversation, is welfare about our ability to be free from impediments, or is it about our ability to go through things? And yeah, it's an interesting conversation. Captain America will return in Avengers Domesday. Cool. Yeah. Woo. Nice. Let's see how the poll's doing. I want to know what you guys think. When should Trump or PMs or anyone be involved in local politics? 57% say never. Yeah, keep Donald Trump out of these factional issues like farming that have connections. Farming is one of these agricultures, has connections to national security. Agriculture is also just agriculture, right? When is taking Bessie and 3 of her friends down to the slaughterhouse or getting some corn, corn on the cob for the family at the barbecue? When is this about national security? It's something people do. So never has 0 to 1, 57%. Keep these guys out of it, right? If you're talking about national security and agriculture, cool, solve the problem, right? Talk about it. Go learn from people. Don't get involved yourself, but that's what this is telling me, right? Don't get involved in these factional issues like agriculture. Stay out of Los Angeles, right? We don't need the feds. We don't need DEA raids in MacArthur Park when you literally had military drones flying overhead. We don't trust you. We don't want you here. We don't want Spencer Pratt. We don't want these, these mouthpieces. Spencer Pratt believed 9/11 was an inside job. So he's also a delusional, irrational person who believes things without evidence, and he wants to manage $1 trillion budget. So if your auto mechanic believed that there were ghosts inside of the brakes of your car, and the ghosts are what made the brakes work, you wouldn't elect that mechanic to fix your brakes. You wouldn't elect a mechanic who believed that it was Jesus's farts and blah, whatever, somebody splooges and goons in your car engine, and this is how an engine works, right? This is combustion. You'd say, hey, no, that's not combustible. You're not my mechanic anymore. So Spencer Pratt believed that national security works by the government planning an attack that killed 3,000 of your own civilians. You wouldn't elect Spencer Pratt. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that he's even mentioned still. Yet here we are. You don't walk away from something like that. If you're that much of an idiot or a moron, you're never qualified to leave government. That's what that's telling other people. That's what that's telling you. You're not qualified to run for government. You said you wanted to go help soup kitchens. Go help soup kitchens. You're in America. Do you not understand that either? No one was stopping you in the first place. You don't understand that. So you're the guy who thinks that the way government works is you plan an attack to kill 3,000 people and then start a war that kills 1 million more. this is what your government is and this is what you believe. Cool. What's your evidence, right? What's your evidence? Spencer Pratt, Captain America. And then so this is why we keep people out of local politics that are idiots and are morons, because you don't understand basic truths about the world. You're superstitious, right? You hold superstitions in higher regard than other people and facts and evidences and inferences. And so how can you make any decision? Who's going to be around you? Stay out of local politics, stay out of Washington. 8% say not always, 5 to 7. So this maybe means that, yeah, you do 8%, still very low number, but in context, this is the least place answer. This is the least place answer. So, sometimes, who knows, Donald Trump gets wind of something, maybe this is maybe the correct answer for democratic socialism or something like this. That, yeah, the federal budget sometimes can help with problems and alleviate the federal burden when there's a better local solution. That's how democratic socialism and technocracy, or the democratic portion and technocracy, work together. More participatory or stronger forms of democracy. That, yeah, strong democracy is not about your voice and idiots like Alex Stein, morons like Cam Higby, morons like Doug Wilson, right? All the same thing. Doug Wilson wants your little girls playing Little House on the Prairie instead of going to school. Doug Wilson wants that. So does Alex Stein and Cam Higby by extension, right? And so, these idiots tell you that their voice is heard on the federal level. And you guys are saying, yeah, kind of, we want to keep that out, right? We don't want that moron coming back to our local politics. No, sometimes they maybe would, but but yeah, it would be more often. 10% say not usually. 10% say, who knows, maybe you've got FEMA or something like this. You've got crisis politics. You've got issues that do rise to the level of national security. So sometimes you do want Donald Trump there. Sometimes you do want PMs. Sometimes you do want labor conservative ideologies talking down from Washington or removing that context in order to do that. Great question, though. Should Donald Trump be removing context when he's installing these MAGA politicians? Seems like he can't, right? It seems like in Los Angeles, the Spencer Pratt guy is running, but he's not going anywhere, right? You're still a conspiracy theorist. You're still hanging out with the guy that thought Pizzagate was a real thing. So you're low IQ, you're an idiot, and you're a cruel person, right? At the end of the day, you are a mean, cruel person who would lie about other people that you've never met. And so, to me, that is about justice. The fact that you didn't hold justice as a value once in your life, and now you do. And for you, justice, your level of depth and development is, let me talk to these voters about going to volunteer at a soup kitchen. How dumb does this guy think you are? He thinks you're really dumb. So, and then 25% say frequently. So I'd love to hear more. Israel or Palestine? I don't know what that question means. I don't know what the question means about Israel or Palestine. That's, am I from Hawaii? I'm not from Hawaii, cooked sushi. Captain America will return. Can you tell me when to go? Yeah, I don't know why you're asking weird sexualized questions of me. Happy Pride Month, by the way. Not that that has anything to do with Pride. But yeah, you've got the rest of Bay Area culture. You can do Face, tell me when to go. Ghost Ride the Whip. You can talk about the gay rights movement this month. That would be awesome. You can talk about civil rights. You can talk about some of the cosmopolitan or other forces in Northern California. You can talk about the environment. You've got the redwoods up there. Lots of stuff. Lots of stuff that's not the one thing that you mentioned. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a great experience. It sounds like you have great voting experience. You've got great experience, maybe probably more than you're giving yourself credit for in some ways and probably less in other ways. If we're having an adult conversation, just my vibe from what you're saying is it sounds like you've probably done a great job interpreting news stories. You've had your own firsthand experiences, which are really rich, right? People that recognize those and filter those back to their political beliefs usually are more politically active. And yeah, people can make mistakes without losing their dignity, and shared prosperity ensures that no one is left behind. Yeah, so ensuring, a lot of this seems like normative negotiations. I'm always curious about that interplay between norms and utility, and within the context of like the proper application of laws or the proper application of government, is a very interesting thing. Yeah, yeah. And strong social safety nets in Europe is, who knows, where does that come from? And some people would say there isn't an explanation because Europe historically has been so religiously and ideologically divided. It's been, there's been accusations of religious or class-based discrimination. You've had these uprisings of law that used to come from diplomacy around borders and things like this coming down and influencing domestic politics, all kinds of weird stuff. Maybe just those three things. You've had geopolitical competition extending to Asia, obviously, and things like this. And so it's interesting. Yeah, I'm obviously not an expert on European politics, but it's fascinating to see stuff like this where you can put all of this stuff in a bucket. And then like in the early European Union, you have all these clashes, disputes, discussions, and then it just comes up that you ultimately during the formation of the European Union in the 90s, you say to enter into the European Union, there's these economic and constitutional standards you have to meet. And this drives a lot of political will toward this system. And so it's a vote in some sense. This story, it's a vote towards structural law, structural politics, the relationship of global order. And people have accused in the modern sense of this of either recontextualizing, properly contextualizing, or decontextualizing aspects of this rich European history. And so critics of the far right in Europe, as far as I'm aware, say that, yeah, this did decontextualize European story of heritage, right? Do you remember the times when we were all killing each other? Do you remember the times when, Jews and Orthodox and Catholics were starving in the street or the bourgeois was starving in the street? And you would see this everywhere. And part of the reason this was because you didn't have strong patriarchal male candidates leading the country, just like that Hitler guy, right? Just like the Third Reich. You can go, they're a dime a dozen, it turns out. And when you get rid of whoever it is, you get rid of your Prussian King Wilhelm, Schneisenheiser or whatever it is, you got your military guys left over. So what are you going to be doing about that? What are you doing when you're done with that? And then the other side says, well, it's the complete opposite. We see liberalization as a force producing peace between nations, and it provides guide rails for domestic politics and culture. It encourages people not to become cultured, but you do get to go travel around and get that experience a little better and things like this. And so it eliminates a security dilemma, right? It eliminates security dilemmas that would normally exist in geopolitics. And then, given that that's gone, yeah, this changes everything for people, right? It totally changes everything that this is what we're doing, right? This is what we're doing. So sorry, I didn't mean to be condescending or rude, but I hope that was responding to your comment or something like this. Yeah, but losing dignity, and things like this, yeah, no one is left behind. Yeah, I think those are awesome values. Yeah, those are awesome values. Yeah, in terms of justice, these are things we should be able to talk about and stand behind. I don't think it's just tongue in cheek when we see people virtue signaling like Spencer Pratt, like these other religious influencers that don't know what happens when their fascism, when their sense of national identity, basically their made up version of how we agree to be in a society. We all have made up versions of this, but your version just entails other people. It just happens to be the case. So you go out and this circles back and wraps around yourself. And yeah, cool. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that too. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And so if you guys want to send red super chats, if you guys want to do all that kind of stuff, feel free to do so. Send orange super chats, gift memberships to the channel. Those things are all really helpful. I'm against homosexuality. Someone says it's not a choice. I have no problem with yeah, that's a pseudoscientific view. It's anti-science. So yeah, when your norms, this is a weird thing. Maybe feminist politics a little bit here is when we see, another way, and maybe I'm wrong about something, but when we see, so just for a second, when we see that that your religious or political ideology that goes from your home and there seems to effortlessly go beyond it without evidence, right? Your political views and values seem to go from, your small four walls. I don't care how big your house is, but your tiny four walls with whatever stuff goes on there to another place. And you're suddenly talking about people's genetics, their genomics, their psychology, their morphology. You're talking about something in the natural world, but you cannot keep that natural description. Cool. Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for contributing to the conversation. Thanks for checking what's going on today, May. Great to see you. Great to see you. We're going to be doing another stream tonight, by the way. And yeah, it's more evidence-based politics. I'll be in your guys' shorts feed and stuff like this too. But yeah, so when you voice a hateful view, someone voices a hateful view on homosexuality, on the identity we ascribe in a social sense, to what really is these arbitrary same as sort of descriptions. It's the same pattern, right? It's the same way that we can prescribe values to planes, trains, and automobiles, energy, all this other bullshit that doesn't matter for us in our everyday life, right? You wish we could just have peace around it, but we don't. And it's the same idea that your subjective opinion, your religion, your spirituality is probably pretty fucked up and weird in this small little world you're living in your own house. And then you move it outside. When it comes back, right? When it comes back, it also gets all twisted. It also gets all weird. If it were true, the Zionists if it were true, I don't know what that means. If it were true, the Zionists would oppose it. What is it? If it were true, the Zionists would oppose it. It, right? I get to say it because I'm actually educated, right? I'm actually smart. I consider how other people consider it. So if you're going to go around and you're going to be it, and you haven't considered what the world is actually like, what reality is actually like, what is it? It isn't anything, right? You have no point. I don't know if this was meant to be something I respond to, I clean up, I fix it for you. I don't know if this was supposed to be a conversation. Can you clarify what we're even doing here? You're right, but LeBron clears Jordan. MJ. Yeah. Oh man, that's kind of a bold point. Yeah. Yeah. No, they both had great support players, right? Kyrie was a scorer. Kyrie could easily be set up as a game-defining threat. J.R. Smith was a great player in his own right. Who else did they have? Did they have what was his name? Zagloskis or something, whoever it was. Hey, what's going on, Dale Cooper? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of, for athletic stuff, I kind of intuit a little bit. I think that Jordan, when you put Jordan tape up next to LeBron James, Jordan is Jordan is also like a court clearing athlete, right? He's a guy that you can't really have a coverage plan for. And so it's really difficult at a certain point in time, that is just a difference maker, that a guy that is having a good night can drop 40 plus easy. They're going to drop 35 just fitting where the court puts them. That's really difficult. To me, there's never a clear answer. There's not a clear answer of who you'd rather pay for. And there's not a clear answer of who's actually a better player to like build a playbook around either, Yeah, I did like Jordan. And we saw Jordan with Pippen, definitely with Pippen, but we saw Jordan be able to run multiple playbooks with different teams. Dennis Rodman was one of my favorite players. Yeah, Tony Kukoc was fun to watch. But yeah, you had Bill Paxton. There were tons of, what was it, Bill Cartwright? You had all kinds of great players on those Bulls teams. Even guys that would, they would average less than 10 points a game, but they were on the court for 48 minutes, right? They were still playing the game. So the Bulls did have a great team, but I also I think if you're saying, well, it's a Hall of Fame team or something like that, well, what about Kyrie Irving? What about J.R. Smith was one of the best, he was one of the best, three players to play the game in that era. The fact that he made like one or two mistakes during big games, I don't think that overshadows the fact that they won titles, they got to the championship, you know. So, but yeah, my deep sports opinion. Right. Right. Cool. All right, guys, I'm gonna go get some coffee. I'm gonna go get some coffee. What the? So I do have a question. I got a question for my Middle Eastern friends, my folks from the Middle East, from Arab societies. How do you guys feel about Hassan Piker and Al Jazeera English? So mainstream media and these small streamers in the West coming out. I got really upset about this. I got really pissed. Someone was asking me about Israel Palestine, but let me be honest with you for a second. I got really upset that we saw what appeared to me like these lunatic, leftist, collectivist, Western streamers telling me what's going on in politics in the world. And I got really upset that we saw, right, these Hamas al-Qassam guys, these guys were absolute nutsos, right? They didn't, in any sense, they didn't say, well, we've got a group of 100 angry young males, and so we're going to send 100 angry young males across the border to you. They said, yeah, we're going to send 3,000 and we're going to pick 30 neighborhoods, 30 kibbutzes, and we're going to go pick all this stuff. And there you go. There's your 30 kibbutzes. There's 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I'm in a different state now. I'm not even in my own city thinking about different places. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Okay, so you picked 30 and then 3,000. Okay, cool. I gotcha, right? So, but yeah, to me, that the fact that this happened, but then as a result, you have innocent people in the crossfire. You know that you've had this game reasoning that existed before for some reason, and we have only what appears like uneducated Western voices talking about this conflict. And I'm as pro-Israel as the next of them. I'm undecided on this 224 resolution. I'm as pro-Israel as the rest of them. And this doesn't excuse war crimes, right? This doesn't wiggle me out of my cosmopolitan. This doesn't wiggle me out of my pro-peace, not pro-peace, but non-violence mindset. And so we see on October 8th, we see the start of a massacre, right? We see the start of a genocide, of a crime, their own crime against humanity, their own war crime. Hamas, who has been guilty of this in the past as well. Nothing is going to roll back, this sort of clash. And I don't understand how we had these opinions and views that were anti-diplomacy, basically saying, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. You're not done yet. Keep it going. That's what I felt. That's how I interpreted Hassan Piker. That's how I interpreted other leftist streamers, other pro-Palestine streamers. Let's not actually understand the problem or the issue. Let's not actually talk about it, or we recognize it once and we recognize it enough, even if we can't actually understand what's going on. And the Al Jazeera, their ad spots, right? Any mainstream media, so hey, this is why I am skeptical of economic modalities. This is why, as someone who does evidence-based politics, scholastic politics, I'm skeptical of economics in some terms, because tell me about ethical capitalism. Tell me about conscious capitalism. Tell me about sustainable or environmental capitalism. Tell me about that profit motive. Tell me about Islamic economics. Tell me about Muslim economics. Tell me about values that are not constrained and can exist within profit-oriented economies, right? Economies that are just like everyone else's. And what do you see? You see the same exact thing. It doesn't matter if you're based in Dubai, in Saudi Arabia, in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, right? These assholes who don't care about the public interest, these assholes who don't care about individual values anywhere in the world will tell you anything they want instead of saying, we don't know what to do next. We don't know how to solve it. We've got ad dollars coming in. We've got oil revenues. We've got military revenues coming in. And so now, all right, what's more important, right? What's more important is your view count. What's more important is that you get more sales. What's more important is all of this stuff. Whatever, cool. Yeah, I'm not supposed to be that upset about that. Awesome, right? I'm supposed to virtue signal because I know that these are conversations that are actually at some point have to funnel to a table where you sit down and you talk. These are discussions that have to happen face to face. And so, yeah, I'm upset, to say that maybe I'm unrealistic, idealistic, or a dreamer because I thought that even after October 7th, the violence could be constrained more quickly and that in a good cooperative equal sum solution could have been reached more expeditiously. And yet it wasn't to be. I think in any case, it doesn't matter that we shouldn't allow leaders like Benjamin Netanyahu or those in Palestine who still seek to lead, those in Hezbollah who still seek to lead, those in any of these countries, any of these people that said there's a reason and an excuse we didn't reach a cooperative solution faster, get them the fuck out. Get them the fuck out. They shouldn't have any control over anyone's life because that was someone who had considered using violence for pro-social purposes prior to that conversation. Whatever. Cool. You're not a leader in government. Cool. I'm not a leader in government either then, I guess. It doesn't make any sense to me. Whatever. Hey, I'm not, these guys never said I'm not gonna do any of the things that I said I would do. They didn't say this is what I'm coming, if this is what I have to say to get to the table first, I'm not gonna do the things I said I was gonna do. I'm capable of doing, I'm capable, or I want to do these things. I'm not gonna negotiate on doing those things in any sense in my own mind. And I'm negotiating on the ways that we can talk about not doing those things, right? We never saw that logic once out of either state, any of the leaders. We saw this sort of half-hearted surface level virtue signaling from BRICS and the UN and these other countries that said, oh, well, yeah, let's avoid conflict. No one gives a fuck. You didn't care about that. You didn't care about that 6 months ago. You don't care about it now, right? Don't lie to my face. Don't lie to my face. Don't lie to my face once because I don't forget that. That's one of the things I don't forget. You're a violent person and you're a liar, okay? So if I know you're a violent person and you're a liar, I don't forget that. You posture violence once, I don't forget that. You're a violent person and a liar and you believe that the threat of violence gets you ahead. Nope, because you know where the start of violence always comes from? It always comes from the threat of violence. So you are verifiably, you are viably violent. And if you're viably violent, guess what? I'm viably peaceful. So I didn't want any of this. I didn't want people that talked about leftism. I didn't want people reading chat. I didn't want mainstream media talking about selling gold in their IRAs or halal burger. I didn't give a fuck about any of that, right? You're not viably a peaceful person. You're not viably a peaceful narrative. You're not viably a peaceful philosophy. You're not viably peaceful anything. So why did you talk in the first place? And yet you did, right? To me, you're guilty of sin. You're just as guilty as anyone else of committing evil, right? You want to use those words, genocide, evil, violence. You're just as guilty. Viable. What's viable, right? You didn't hear this once. Get out of my news feed. Unsubscribed. How lackluster, right? Unsubscribed, right? Get these assholes in the UN out. Get these lazy ass politicians who just do things for convenience sake out of office. Get them out. These people that didn't talk about the viability of peace, not even a little bit. I'm done. I'm done, guys. So that's why I'm asking today, right? That's one of the reasons I'm asking. You want these same people that are inept, that are incompetent at solving for your values, how you measure success, environmental values, environmental liberation, national security. I don't care about anything else. When should Trump or PMs or anyone be involved in local politics? 54% of you say never, right? That's not the correct answer, but it's pretty close. Never, right? These people that are not doing a good job in the present day should never be in your community, right? You can't solve the big problem. Why would I trust you with the small problem? You can't solve the small problem. You can't do so in a pro-social, in a way that's consistent with our values. Why would I trust you with the big problem? Why did you vote for them in the first place? Why are you the cheerleader, right? You're unpaid marketing, you simp, you shill. You're unpaid and you're doing it anyways. You develop your own brain delusions, your mental delusions over these people that themselves would not reciprocate. They would not reciprocate the effort. They're not someone who was ever viably peaceful, and they would never reciprocate. So they're not someone that you can ever work with in any sense. So never get these people out. 54% of you guys. 8% say not always, 5 to 7. 12% of you guys say not usually, 2 to 4. Great answers, right? Let's develop some nuance in our own views. I'll talk about that, guys. Let's develop some nuance in our own views about when and why government is there with us. I don't know, Rose, or if you guys aren't chatting, but I'm going to reset chat real quick. Whoops. Hey, Scott. I just saw Scott Steelman. I just saw you guys. My chat got frozen. Life isn't black and white. This goes for every single country on earth. Condemn Hamas's terrorist attacks. Asmond is an idiot. Yeah, he's not. He's a performer, right? He's a showman. He's a fake person. He's not a politician. He doesn't know anything about politics. Everything that he knows is things he knows for his audience, right? For the algorithm. He's an idiot. Hey, what's going on? Hari Shankar. Sorry about that. I got shut down. Yeah, but let's develop some nuance in our views. You guys can check out the pinned message. Yeah, when we are thinking about negotiating norms, cultures, and values, and we're negotiating economic utility, we're negotiating the dollars and cents, the pluses and minuses, the ones and the zeros of things. When we're negotiating these things, let's think rationally. Let's not think in terms of loss aversion all the time as well, right? Some things are ones or zeros. Some things don't go from 1 to -1. You know, that's a gearing you can have. Some things are more complex. There are 1 and a 1. Right? There are 1 and a 1, or 1 and a 2, and then a 0, right? Or 1 and a 1, a 1 and a 2, and then a 1 and a 1 for something else versus a -1 for themselves. So there's different ways to consider economic utility, and there's different ways to think of, the common interest, the public good, what a government is set up to actually be successful at. So developing, I'm not going to go too deep into that one. I know it's a heavy topic, but yeah, I want to give a special shout out to the 59 votes on the poll. We have 8% and 10% saying not always and not usually. And 59% of you guys are pissed, right? And 22% of you guys, to me, I think are indoctrinated, right? I don't know why you would think a federal politician should be in your own home. You want Donald Trump telling you your values again. I truthfully have zero understanding of that. I really don't know how that's justifiable in any sense. I think that is an example of an incorrect political opinion. I think the correct is not always or not usually, saying almost never, right? Almost never. Really tell me. If you're here frequently, we're going to be talking a bunch, and you better have a great explanation for why you're here. What's going on, Adam S? Good to see you. Yeah, great to see you. And then 60% that say never, I agree that you have a right to be angry and upset. Yeah, angry and upset. Weird internet hood shit. Yeah. What up, King? What up, crew? What she do? She don't text you on my phone. Bet. Bro that's racist, Henry. That's racist. I do love animals. Peter Singer wrote an essay called Animal Liberation. I think when we think of what it's actually like to have neurons, right? It's the same morphology, man. I'm telling you, this is how similar it is, right? Can you imagine somebody, if I have a Geek Vape bar or whatever it is, it's called like a butter bar or something, I don't know. But somebody comes up and they say, well, this is called a Flum Wubbits vape, but I don't really vape, right? Because Flum Wubbits isn't a geek bar. So it looks like a vape, it works like a vape, it's got nicotine like a vape, but I don't really vape because it's a Flum Wubbits vape. It's not a geek bar, it's not a rechargeable, or it's not from Temu or some shit, right? It didn't come in an Amazon package with a fake pocket wanker or something like this, whatever. But you know, this is, to me, this is, as a vegan or as someone who supports moral consideration of animals, this is like saying animals have different moral systems. Because you could imagine saying, well, we all have neurons, but these are Flum-Wubbit neurons, right? These are Flum-Wubbit pain receptors. This is Flum-Wubbit experience. This is Flum-Wubbit just what it's like to be something, irrespective of what you say it's like. This is wild, right? And so what's more important, your rational consideration? Let's say you're sitting on Freud's couch, or you're Freud, you're Jordan Peterson, you're psychoanalyzing someone, you're a psychiatrist, a psychologist, you're a licensed therapist, you've done your clinical work, you've already gone to school, you've read, these aren't woke critical theory books you've read. Maybe they are, right? But you've read, you've done the work, and somebody tells you, well, this Karen woman, she was so, Morty Schwimmer, I'm Morty Schwimmer, and I come in and I say, well, my name's Morty Schwimmer, and I was going out and I was sitting on my lawn chair the other day, and this woman came by and she was blaring rap music and she threw a drink out the window, and it made me have an existential crisis. I thought, what is this world coming to? I liked the music, but she was littering. I liked the music and she was littering. Doctor, something's wrong in my head. I can't get over it. My name's Morty Schwimmer. And so you would imagine this person that is confessing an existential angst has some justification, and you would have to understand it. But you wouldn't say this person is like every other human, right? You would assess them like a moral being having an experience. And so, but you could also say, well, in advance, because you're talking to them, right? Because they come to your office, because they ask to see a mental health professional, that they acknowledge they're having a problem. And so you might say that, well, other animals and beings are actually like this, where once we get too far out ahead where we don't actually have knowledge or experience of those things, then we become increasingly less accurate. Which is very funny, right? When we see people trying to describe and tell you all about all of these worldly facets and worldly things, it's just, it's very sad. I'm Elmer J. Hey, what's going on? June Cleaver speaks jive. Hell yeah. Yeah. I love the anthropological, the cultural, linguistic traditions of the United States are very cool. Yeah, it's Black History Month, but yeah, I always said, so the OSS, right? You would give these people in World War II, you'd give these guys, these groups of men, you would give them dynamite in their backpacks, and you would tell them, hey, go mess with these Nazis, right? Go mess with these fascist guys, these fascist Nazi guys. And then when they came back, you said, well, most of you guys are morons, right? You guys all have PTSD or you're idiots. But some of you guys, we hired the right way, right? Some of you guys didn't have your brain didn't flip off. You're not an alcoholic. You don't have PTSD. And you're still like this genius, right? You're still like this person who has above average capabilities, which is why we gave you the dynamite to go behind enemy lines in the first place. So these guys become the CIA, right? But I like to say that the first men and women in the CIA, the actual first CIA was gay America, right? For hundreds of years, gay people, and because it's Pride Month, for hundreds of years in the United States, you weren't allowed to be gay, right? Even today, gay people, members of the LGBTQIA plus community are like 5 to 6 more times likely to be victims of political violence. So there is a reason people don't out themselves. There's a reason people don't express their values in the society, which is incredibly wrong. And it has to do with this number that's 400, 500, 600%, right? Massive. If that was your family, you'd be upset. But this also, this is also like a story to celebrate, is just that you had to learn how to use language differently. You had to learn how other people use language, not in a creepy sense, but just in a sense that, well, when you're talking about, some people can say hamburger helper, Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan, bluegrass. And like, if that was me, I'd be like, oh, wow, I just don't know, whatever. Maybe still very much a cis white male. But some people say Michael Jordan, bluegrass, hamburger helper, NASCAR. And at the end of it, what you're saying is you're going to beat the holy hell out of me if you find out I'm gay. Right. And so, I just want to celebrate that story that people have gone through harder experiences. They haven't had that comfort or that freedom that you've had. They had to discover that from a different perspective. And some people truly had a rough go at it because society sucks. People suck. Did you know that orange is the only color you can taste? Wow. Orange, gorge, orange, morange, orange, orange, borge, gorge, borat, borat, borat. I got a gourd that is black coffee in the coffee pot that, but I'm black trap. I'm a trap star. I came up with a black car driving a NASCAR. I watched Horror with the 4-door and the 4-screen, 4-inch porridge pouring out the back of the suspension, holding us with the 24-inch rims. Huh. Hell yeah. I went to get the barbecue chicken. I was hardly finger licking because I'm a vegan. You guys know how to rap. You guys know those internal rhyme schemes. Internal. Black thermal. Internal black thermal. Mike Check and Mike Turner's. Tina Turner and Lou Ferrigno. That's hulking out with the goodness. Hallelujah. Only the Lord can hold us. I read Leviticus when I was boring holes. I wouldn't normally be boring holes, but I was bored as horse. I was bored as your horse. That's a black hearse. That's your husband giving me the news. How long have you been a vegan, Duck? I've been a vegan for about 4 or 5 years. You seem to have some kind of mental difficulties. Me or someone else? Can you not? Can you use less internet? Can you be less of the internet when you're talking? Thank you. Or more so, right? More so, less so, more so, probably more so. Vegan isn't for everyone, and that's okay. But the mass farms that run everything need to change. These animals still deserve lives and care. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's an unfair statement if you say something like vegan isn't for everyone. For this is, independently, if I say vegan is, if I say it in a different sense, if I say Ryzen 5s aren't for everyone, if I say like a Ryzen 5 PC with a NVIDIA graphics card or something, or I say Bluetooth headphones aren't for everyone, this is completely separate from saying, well, considerations about computers or considerations about technology and electronic devices aren't for everyone. So there's still something so saying vegan isn't for everyone is missing that veganism contains a broader worldview that is about human nature and values. You may not like being defined that way, and that's fine, right? It still may not be for everyone, but to say that the argument itself is wholesale in one sense invalidated because it's not for everyone, I think is a disingenuous tactic, personally. I love those shoes. They are unique. Those shoes were gifts or presents, John Doe. Yeah, those shoes were gifts or presents. So there's part of the studio. It's just stuff I had. Yeah. There's $700, right? Those are the prices I give because I'm not actually selling stuff. So if you want to cash at me $1,000, I'll ship you that shoe. I've got a tip jar link in my profile. Tip jar link in my profile. Do you love to support other vegan creators? Cool. Yeah. Shout out to you, man. Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to, I love seeing people out on the front line getting videos. I love to see activism, civil society, man. I try to support in both an honest, passionate, and philosophical sense. I'm sick of it, man. I do vote for Democrats because I believe that style of conversation. Look, you're worried about healthcare in your life, and you say this is why, right? maybe I'm delusional, but this is why we just can't consider other persons, other beings in their moral sense. This is why, right? Because we don't. And so it's like, okay, cool. This is how much it means to me is I want to tackle that $10 trillion oil and energy military exploitative number that we all share a part in, right? This is the general fund of the world. This is the general fund of, having online adult websites. This is the general fund of having fancy apartments, fancy appliances, new shoes, new microphones, all this stuff. So, yeah. And so, whatever. They are new or used. Everything's used. Yeah, everything's used. Yeah, there's the Jordan runners. There's the Jordan runners. They're running shoes. Yeah, but yeah, that argument does come home to me because if this is the crazy part is if somebody's willing to solve your small problems and you say, well, the reason it's not a moral consideration is because of all this other little stuff. Well, very practically speaking, if you acknowledge that there is a moral consideration for animals, gerbils and hamsters shouldn't live by themselves, is a great example of one, right? You wouldn't put an innocent person in solitary confinement. So in the same sense, gerbils and hamsters shouldn't be living by themselves. And we should consider habitation then in the reason that is true is because we should consider the morphology of a being and habitation together. We shouldn't try to interdict normally in nature, right? Not that hard, right? There's no lion argument. There's no carnivore predator argument. Why are you interdicting in habitation? And then what is the actual moral sense? When finally does our big prefrontal cortexes versus our animal brain interdict in what habitation must be like? Why is it relevant? When is it relevant? Right? Are we building cities on the sides of mountains? Saying that basically we should try to preserve ecology in as minimal of a way as possible, right? Very old idea. What's this sort of model actually like? When we think more fundamentally there, what comes out? That's a really mean thing to say. I don't know who you are, Zettelbro. I'm sorry if I have done. I apologize. Right? If I have done something to offend you, I apologize. Tell me what it is. Why don't you get a life and spend your time outside? I wish I could. Right? I wish I could spend my time outside. I don't have deep apologies about spending time on the internet. I feel bad about the data usage of the DuxY channel. I feel bad when I have to use it. When I do use AI, I either have to or choose to use AI. And I do wish I could spend a lot of time outside. All right. If you want to come back later tonight, everybody, welcome to the DuxY channel. We are an evidence-based politics channel. I don't care if you want to come with identity, ideology, that's fine. That doesn't always mean also that we're talking about Trump. I wasn't talking about Donald Trump. That's what, yeah. And so, yeah, guys, we're all individuals. We're all individuals. Individualism is better than collectivism. So, guys, if you are bringing up topics because we're all in this together or for collectivist reasons, whatever it is, I don't know what's going on. But yeah, feel free to come back. If you guys miss a topic one day, come back the next day. Maybe we'll get to talk about something. I've got shorts, feeds, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. But I guess since I have the bully pulpit and I get to talk about veganism, I would just say that, when there's very common sense considerations that animals are deserving of moral worth in any sense that morality is used, and then people say, well, it's just practical. There's all these problems. And people say, well, politically, I'm willing to solve those things. Socially, I want that to be part of the conversation and I'm willing to solve it. What is the big fucking holdup, right? Why does Donald Trump want to bring military spending, oil and gas spending? He wants to bring Kristi Noem's and the ICE administration's, Tom Homan's conspiracy to commit murder against American citizens. He wants to ask for John Hamm and the FBI to investigate this nonsense. He wants this, right? He wants the feds doing DEA raids in cities around the country. He wants new forms of federal interventions that cost money that disrupt people's lives and that nobody understands, right? These people are not trustworthy. These people don't have the common good in their interest. And so I don't get it, because I did vote for environmentalism. I did vote for veganism. I did vote to support women's rights. And these people, when they come into my community and they say, we want big government in your community, even though we're supposed to be the small government, the party of inalienable rights. Hey, that makes me want to push 10 times harder. I'm not a collectivist. I'm an individual guy. But that makes me want to push and say, what can we get done in 2 years, right? We're going to shove this right back up your ass because you failed. You failed. My values are not represented. So I'm going to go out and talk about it now. I'm going to go out because there are people, there are humans, there are other societies around the world who see things like me, who need the United States to represent our values domestically and abroad. And so I'm done. I'm sick of this military industrial spending. I'm sick of these violent men making excuses after excuses because of game theory, because of computation. You're not a mathematician. You're an ideologue, right? You're not a mathematician. You're just acting as a person is right now. This is unacceptable. The fact that you cannot be interpreted any way except being a person who's doing something and not doing so for any reason. You're just doing so because you failed someplace else, so you're looking for a place to hide it, right? This is nonsense. Get out of the States. Get out of the States. Sick. We need to handle a lot of problems. All countries have problems, and I think most crucial we need to focus on is removing, yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, I'm always worried about nuclear power. I'm worried about... I think there's some esoteric conversation about education and values, but we should be able to have educated and informed discussions without populism taking over, right? We need, it's so weird when I think this is maybe a practical challenge, but yeah, we almost need this factionalism, populism. We need minoritarian and majoritarian politics. We need partisanship when it comes to these infrastructure spending and improvement and modernization initiatives. Saying that, well, we've got this problem that exists in the US borders and the supply chains and value chains go beyond. There's other contexts and things like this. To me, these are all really important conversations that we have to have, right? Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, if people want, right, I'm not the guy to give you permission, but, forget about it for a second, okay? Forget about it. I want to get mama's pasta tray. I want spaghetti, fagioli, franco stromboli, rigatoni, garlic bread, right? I want to order this for us. Let me do this. Let me do my duty as a man, as a Catholic man, as a Roman Catholic man. Spaghetti, bibbidi, right? I'm going to do this for us, guys. This is who Duck is as a person. Don't forget this. But I'm not saying, if you want to go join a hippie commune, you want employee stock ownership, you want voting shares and the whatnot, okay, go do it. I'm not going to stop you. But why, right? People are idiots. People are morons. Right? I think there's great co-ops in the world. Winco is a great co-op grocery store. There's others with great management structures, management teams. It's in the bylaws. It's their fiduciary responsibility. They built it with that in mind, right? So there's ways to do it, but let me just warn you, right? Let me just warn you that when I go to Davis and Lewis, and I set up my corporate structures, my Delaware C Corps, whatever it is. I've got S Corps, I've got this LLC, that LLC, I've got this S Corp, right? S Cargo, S Corp, right? I'm wealthy in these ways. But you set this up and you say, well, these idiots and morons are going to decide things sooner or later, right? Don't vote for these idiots. Some esoteric magical version of human nature where people are not morons. What are you talking of? Get out of my city. We're just yapping, Mr. Alley. I've got a prompt up. We're talking about small, dumb financial mistakes, small government, arguments about ideology. Some of the draws of democratic socialism, some of the draws of conservatism. What can we learn? My B is orthodoxo. Cool. My bi is cool. I'm surprised Trump is getting votes. How can I be Catholic? I wouldn't. I'm actually an atheist. Yeah, I'm actually an atheist. My name is Evo Saved. My other persona online, I've got a third YouTube channel. I've got a third, I joke about it. I've got a third, no, but I'm actually the best apologist and the best anti-theist in the world. You guys think I'm joking? You can ask, is he joking? So I do something called New History Apologetics. New History Apologetics actually talks about the methods and historical means that we use to discuss religion. But New History Apologetics also asks what a new history would be, right? It asks you to consider that before even showing up. And so I am an evangelical Christian in addition to being an anti-theist. I am the best, people are going to start debating this sooner or later, but I am the best anti-theist and I am the best apologist too, it turns out. And so when we're looking for forms of eternal truth, a lot of people would say, well, we're just talking about truth. And yeah, one wonders where this lives. One of the problems I see with apologetics is you claim to know God's word and the mind or beingness of God prior to every single truth you claim to be true. Why? Right? You're not a Christian. If you're a Christian, you would say that we don't, right? In the awesomeness of God that he's given us, we're meant to be honest. This is phenomenology. You're honest about how awesome this is. And so in New History Apologetics, as Evo Saved, I try to encourage people to read the word and text of God as it is, because it is the word of God, and to not claim to have priors that extend to the future when you are doing arguments from experience, aren't you? So you're not a Gnostic, you're not an agnostic, you are dogmatic because you're an apologist, and I'm also an apologist, but I'm not dogmatic. One would beg to wonder how you're even a Christian in the first place. Thank you very much. Where are you from? Hey, what's going on? India? Yeah, shout out to you. Shout out to you. I'm from Arizona in the Southwest United States. Claiming you're the best without others acknowledging it, that's a huge shoes to place on yourself. Yeah. I grew up an athlete, right? I was an athlete when I was growing up. So I don't always understand what people say or why they believe it. But when I say I'm the best, I'm not trying to tell someone to put an expectation on me, but I guess, I mean, it's just kind of funny, I guess. So like, let's just, the way I used to do this is if you put an expectation on me and I haven't had a way to fulfill that, right? I just don't know. I don't feel that safe or comfortable telling people I'm the best at something normally. But when I do that, I know you're going to put an expectation on me. I'd rather just say, I feel like I can contribute to a lot of conversations. It's coming from my opinion comes from a scholastically informed position, but it's completely rooted in biblical theology. That's who Evo Saved is. That's what New History Apologetics is all about, right? It's all about the way that we can interpret what a conversation actually is. So, yeah, I believe in God, but not the biblical sense. It's like people having their own spiritual journey. I do believe in energy. Cool. Yeah, man, that stuff can be overwhelming for some people. And so just, and I'm not trying to put pressure on anyone, but that's great. You found something that works for you. Publicly funded should be publicly accessible. Yeah, talking about access, talking about affordability. I do think it's interesting. We think access is almost this religious term in a democracy, just for people who are trying to develop evidence-based beliefs and things and stuff like this too. Access can easily turn into these like affordability terms or national security, where without specific context or context which itself is capable on building and contracting itself, it doesn't evolve itself. We're just using religious dogmatic speech. I don't know who gave you great wisdom in this world. And if you do have that great wisdom, that's awesome. But we should have strong advocates for access, and we should make those conversations specific and public as often as we can. And this is actually what civil service to me is about. John F. Kennedy saying, ask not what you can do for your country or what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. If you're the moron, you or me volunteers to be the moron that is going to lose 9 out of 10 conversations, 9 out of 10 fights. People still need to hear that. People need to see you losing. People need to see that one time you win, what it means for people. People need to meet the voices and the people who it matters for. And people need to be able to finally ultimately connect that not to our own personal struggles and failures, in my view, but it's those of others. It's ultimately those of others. And it's those who don't have a voice or representation in the system themselves. And so this is partially why access is important, is because it's not as a social education mechanism. It's not just as an institutional mechanism, but access is about those values we ultimately are able to embody and support out in the world. And yeah, so if nobody's, what does this say as a metric in a democracy? I don't know if you guys use metrics, but as a metric of success in a democracy, our willingness to be bold and to lose fights, to go into a fight willingly, knowing that we're competing and we're going to lose, when no one else is willing to do that, and there's no one else, there's people without voices. To me, this is, yeah, I'm not going to go further, but I don't think that a political life is worth living robustly, calling ourselves Democrats or Republicans, conservatives or progressives, when an unstoppable force of injustice is unwilling to meet its match. What kind of world is this? What kind of world is this? And why is this such an unequal burden on those who are maybe the least prone, the least able to, and the least likely to actually have representation and a voice in a society? Fuck no. Right? Fuck no. Yeah. Shh. Right? We should be woken up. Your hero isn't a Luigi Mangione because, Bill with fat ankles and diabetes. Obviously, I'm so sorry, Bill. I have diabetes in my family. That's going to be me one day. And it is people that I really deeply love and care about today. But, this isn't someone that got a better outcome because Luigi Mangione shot someone. It's people willing to lose. It's people willing to not do anything. It's people willing to be a bastion of common sense, a beacon of common sense. And it's people willing to go out and actually wait and say, yeah, these short-sighted nationalists can't put 2 and 2 together over a couple months. Charlie Kirk was eating his omelets, his coffee, eggs, and bacon one morning. And, whatever, one of his butt buddies, like Alex Stein, no offense, but he put 2+ on a piece of paper, and Charlie goes, dart, 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 2+, dart, 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 dart. And then, yeah, one day someone else came over and put the last 2 down. So it says 2 + 2 equals. And yeah, he forgot that someone said 1 in front of the other, right? So we can't think about these problems over time. I think about justice over the period of not days, minutes, seconds, weeks, but ideally months and years and decades. And presidents should be able to consider these things over the period of centuries as much as one can. And so the fact that we don't consider voices for the voiceless, dignity, we don't consider the political goods and the social products we produce as being for everyone. We consider the norms underneath these things, whatever. Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Leave me the fuck out of it, but let's do that too, right? If it's helpful, whatever. But we don't consider these things. What are we doing? We're not being mature. Hey, what's going on, Flame Boy? What's going on, everybody? Good to see you guys. What's your views? Yeah. I don't want to talk too much two-way stuff. I'll tell you guys, yeah. This is weird. So my main self, I support the Second Amendment. I support some level of the Second Amendment. People say that it matters so much. And yeah, I think you're an idiot. I think you're a moron. And yeah, we can talk about it, right? That's exactly right. We can talk about it. I don't know why we have a Second Amendment, but politically, my own normative values, I don't express those politically. There's no deep state coded message secret plan there. I just think you're a fucking idiot. I'm allowed to think you're an idiot. I'm allowed to think that, yeah, we should have two-way laws. We should also, there's no such thing as no moving backwards, right? There's municipalities, there's different contexts, and there's different ways where you have your Second Amendment rights, and there's laws about that Second Amendment right. You can't own a tank, you can't own a Sherman, you guys should know this as well, right? You guys are my two-way people in chat. You guys know we used to run the tin, we used to press these tin sheets, and we used these to go beat, old Uncle Adolf back in the day, right? You would print these airplanes and tanks and all of it, right? It didn't matter. You were building a Jeep, an airplane, a tank. All of it cost about $400,000, $500,000. You had Lucille Ball, Betty White, even the Mormons, right? The Mormons, we put our differences aside, right? And so everybody was working at these sheet metal plants to make these dumbass tanks and shit, right? You put them on a trebuchet and you throw 100 troops and you throw a tank with them and you'd say, go get them, right? Go after them, go have a ball, right? It's all cheap. And that's how we won the Second World War. And yeah, but you're not allowed to own those things. That's wild, right? Isn't that pretty crazy that we got so good? These were things with plenty of availability, zero scarcity in the world. And you weren't allowed to just own a Sherman tank with a belt red fed 100 round or whatever drum magazine on top. You weren't allowed to own a P-22 Mustang or whatever it was, these stupid ass planes that would shoot themselves down until you fixed it. So, but yeah, my friend Alex also got killed in the Aurora shooting. I try not to virtue signal about this, right? I'm not virtue signaling, but yeah, it's one of those things that really hurts. It was really surprising. So if you're going to talk to me, like I've been impacted, people that I know have more closely have been more impacted, and still, yeah, I can say as somebody, whatever. The personal details don't matter as much, but having been impacted by a mass violent event, I just think it's very stupid when you say there's no conversation about it. I can give you good reasons to consider that should make you better. And then I can also offer my political opinion. So yeah. Hey, what's going on, Jackson? What's going on, Lazy Acres? Yeah, Marxism. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, maybe we will. If you guys are asking, maybe we'll do a Discord sometime. I'm not quite ready for it yet. Maybe there's going to be, who knows? I don't know. I think it's very stupid that there's like a one-to-one Discord relationship with channels. I know one of our mods, Almost High, is she's looking to start a channel. And so who knows, maybe one day her and I can share a Discord space, or we can open a Discord space together, and that can be like a shared resource or something or whatever, right? It's just an idea putting out there, but that's something I'd actually like to do or figure out. I'd like to figure that out. And so, yeah. Oh, cool. What's up? I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So we're talking about the Second Amendment. I basically shared some of my military knowledge, the fact that I'm from Arizona, right? So if you want to know what that meant, how I grew up, what I know about who I spent time with, what I'm like, right? I'm not, you're going to find people more rugged than me, but I'm not an idiot. I don't think I'm an idiot. Whatever, right? And so, but also, the fact my political belief is informed by the fact on the 2A that I have been impacted by mass violence, right? Right? My friend Alex, he got killed in Aurora, Colorado, right? He got shot in the back like 4 times, and the guy put one in the back of his head. Yeah, that was how Alex died, right? So whatever it was, and so that's how Alex died, and that hurts, right? There's different layers of uncovering, and when your brain just realizes how your friend died, or that your friend did die, right? There's different levels of realization, and yeah, some of those, guess what? Some of those do come back to the fact that, I know that Hitler and the Nazis existed. And I know that, yeah, everybody wants to go invade the United States with all of our nuclear weapons. And, when you're driving around in your $90,000 pickup truck, you have a right to do that with your little, your lightweight, your 500-gram piece in your side, right? You got 2 rounds in it just to keep it kind of nice and compact. However the fuck you want to do it, right? You fucking moron. But, stupid stuff. And so, yeah, it was one of the deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history. It was in a movie theater. So if you've ever been to a movie theater, very scary places, right? You've got 2 places you can go in. Everybody's sitting down, and yeah. Hey, shout out to you in India. Yeah, shout out to you in India. Yeah, this was almost 10 years ago. This was more than 10 years ago now, right? I think I was 20 or 21 when it happened. So it was almost 15 years ago now, right? 14, 15 years ago. I don't know, but yeah. The ironic part, I'm very pro-science, and I'm not trying to profiteer off of my friend dying 15 years ago, but the ironic part is that he was getting his master's at a top school. He was pursuing a master's degree, an advanced degree in counseling and therapy and psychology. And he got killed by a guy studying neuroscience. Yeah, the school shooter was this guy who was a PhD student in neuroscience named James Holmes. And yeah, that's who killed Alex. But yeah, and so just the interesting juxtaposition is that these two people that know that causation can happen in something as small as a gene. Causation can happen in something as small as a gene or an RNA, a protein, right? When we explain things like whether it's mental illness or violence. And so there's no reason to talk about eugenics or things like this, but there is because these are science fiction ideas that I wouldn't trust anyone with. But there is a reason in a political social sense to just acknowledge that our subjective opinions and feelings about things are applicable in these, right? No one can tell you when your subjective feelings are and are not applicable, but there's a cause too, right? There's a cause. And this is also just like saying, well, the fact that there are planes, trains, and automobiles enables war taxes to be raised to go to war, in the same sense that, the person who, the person who ultimately, pews, unalives someone with a Smith and Wesson or whatever it is, dumb stuff. But that person, the only person who can do that is the person who said in the first place, I'm somebody who owns a Smith and Wesson, right? You can't do that if you don't have that. So, and so I personally don't buy these beliefs. When you say guns don't kill people, people do. Okay, prove that, demonstrate that, right? Your thoughts about something are not an opinion. Your thoughts don't evidence something. Your thoughts is not the complete opinion. So when you say something dumb like that, and you say that's why I support the Second Amendment, right? You don't just say I don't want to talk about it, right? You don't just say, well, I've considered it. Here's actually what I need to feel safe. You just say that any of your feelings about these two-way things are valid. There's tons of people. I'm sure there are military veterans. There's probably lots of military veterans who either don't own firearms or own as bare minimum firearms as they have to. I know this for a fact that there's people that, whatever, who knows, or you just don't represent that view in public at all. But there's lots of different ways. There's lots of differences. The loudest are often taken to be the majority, and that's not the case, right? It's not the case that in the United States, there's uniform acceptance of the Second Amendment. There's basically uniform turning your brain off about what reality is actually like, and what is political, what is evidenced, what's empirical, what is actually the world like. You can ask what reality is like. I didn't call anyone an idiot, I don't think. I don't think I called anyone an idiot, but yeah. I didn't call anyone here an idiot, but yeah. So whatever. But yeah. So this is when people say, let's talk about the Second Amendment. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, my opinion is right there. It's very simple. My opinion isn't about my friend, but if you tell me the Second Amendment's not up for discussion, that has never been true. It's not true. There's no reason it's true. Your thoughts about that are not the end of that road. And you and I both know that, right? So when you talk in a condescending manner to someone who has experienced more of this and knows more than you, most likely, you're just gonna, it's not that you look like an idiot. It's just, I know that you are an idiot, right? You are an idiot. You didn't care in the first place. So why don't you come out and tell me that? Why don't you come out and tell me that you believe in some idealized dream state of the universe where cause doesn't exist? Get out of here. Muslims believe Blackstone kissing. Yeah. And the Brahmin, right? If you guys are in India, there's always been class systems, mythologies. The Brahmin, right? The Brahmin mythology is that, the Brahmin were on the top of the caste system because God or gods have made them this way or something different. And so, yeah, our founding fathers thought about this too in the United States. We've got arguments in our Constitution that elicit this idea that, yeah, there is no like group-based differences. We should look at our military with a little bit of awe, intrigue, envy, and jealousy, and doubt, but we shouldn't look at them. We shouldn't look at them like somehow they know a lot more that we don't as the population. And yeah, this is the same, this weird mythological, narcissistic, egotistical view that if you own firearms, you're somehow a better person or you're a different type of better person. Okay, cool. That literally just exists in your head, right? If you want to be recognized that way, go prove it, right? Go be a responsible person, use common sense. It's not that hard. You can start right this second. You should have started weeks ago being the person that actually is that responsible, that is that much better than everyone else. It's not that difficult. Muslims believe Blackstone kissing can erase sins. I don't know what that means. Yeah, big God logic fails. Yeah, I don't know what that means, politic, but okay. Sorry. Have I been to Afghanistan where Muslims are allowed to marry like the so-called Prophet Muhammad? Yeah, I don't believe, I believe, I obviously don't believe in child marriage. Things like arranged marriage sound incredibly strange to me too, right? I would be on the fence or just, a couple feet over of just kind of opposing those types of things like arranged marriages and things like that. And yeah, and so I also think that's an unfair starting point when you're talking about something specific that people should disagree with on a moral standpoint, and see it as see something like a legal recognition of a marriage or what's allowed in a society, the protection of rights and liberties as one of the political goods a society does produce. But yeah, as much as I again, because I'm an atheist or a Buddhist atheist or an anti-theist or an atheist apologist if I can or whatever, but yeah, so as much as I really don't give a shit about Islam, I don't care about Christianity, I don't want it to impact me at all. I don't think it's a fair way to also address that. It's a way to lump in that there are cultural differences and there are political goods, and these are independent things. You don't go to a Western country and find people marrying underage girls, right? You don't find that in all countries where Muslims live, and you're also not specifying anything, so you're asking me to go do it. Yeah, you do. In 30 states, that's legal. Okay. Well, if you're going to spread misinformation in my chat, I'm going to ban you out, right? I'm going to ban you out. Yeah. Keep, yeah, I'm going to ban you out of my chat. So. Yeah, I don't believe any of that. Yeah, I think there's independence in thought and stuff like this. And so the fact that I don't believe religion belongs in politics this doesn't interdict on the idea that, people are generally the same, right? Being Christian doesn't change how your brain works. And I want that argument. Here's why I'm like this, is because I want the argument that there is a human nature, that there is a fundamental sort of shared common place that we use this to agree on why a society exists. Why does society exist in the first place? What is that? For some people, it's what is that society like? What is that society actually like? Why do we agree to take care of each other? And in a lot of ways, anthropomorphize and put human values first, right? Being Christian doesn't change that. This also means you don't have access to some divine truth. This also means that you don't have access to some form of wisdom that helps you lead society better. This is live. Yeah, WSL, this is live. So and so, that's just my own logic. I'm not trying to fix you, not trying to correct you. It's an interesting conversation about your society kills kids for Lockheed Martin. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you can go participate in civil society. There's an organization in the US called Veterans for Peace that also rallies against and means it when they rally against, right? Veterans for Peace always means it when we rally against, I'm not a veteran, but they rally against military spending. So there's military veterans who are also against aerospace and defense tech companies just getting free taxpayer dollars, fueling $10 trillion in global military expense. The US has a lion's share of that, about $1 trillion we spend on the military, close to $1 trillion every year, and then almost $7 trillion the US and Western allies put out for oil and gas per year. So you want to talk about big numbers? How are we spending $7 trillion and almost $1 trillion ourselves on the military when there's $10 trillion in global military expense? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense. Okay. Yeah. Cool. I tend to agree, I guess. Yeah. If I can, I think when people don't consider, it's a sign of a sick, there is a sickness in a society, and a society produces sickness and sickness of beliefs when we cannot consider other beings. Our lunch is our lunch. It's not another being. I'm also a vegan, right? I'm a vegan. I've got a leather shoe behind me too and a microphone. So, but yeah. Civil society is a place where we can help shape our beliefs. And yeah, you're allowed to, I'm not the one that gives you permission to be angry and stuff like this. But if there's a more productive way to shape that belief, to ground it in something that is political and social, versus just social, that's a good thing to me as well. That's a good thing, to ground our beliefs in something political and social, not just social, if possible. We kill kids for college tuition and Dodge Chargers. Both those things. Yeah. That's probably true. Yeah. Yep. And it's also indiscriminate, right? We also kill people. We kill middle-aged people. We kill old people for college tuition and cars as well. Yeah. It's true. Turns out. Yeah. One would wonder. It stands to reason. Yeah. You can also, Chud, you can go to these backwards countries that don't know what autism is, and so they take their autistic kid to a witch doctor. And yeah, suddenly you're thankful not just for the West, but yeah, Beijing, St. Petersburg, Moscow, the European Union. Suddenly everyone's pretty grateful for it. Turns out. So what are the political goods or products you can produce? The elites control everything. It's hard everywhere. Yeah. I mean, when people spend money, I don't think this is the problem. This is why transparency, autonomy, saying that we individually have our own freedom and consideration mechanisms. We have free speech and transparency in both the sciences as an institution, education, the sciences, and in government. One of the reasons this is so powerful is because information is cheap and free in this age, and it's an inefficiency, right? When people just don't know what others believe, they don't know how someone came to a conclusion or exactly what that conclusion should be taken to mean. We should be able to discuss it, right? But when I say, for example, if I'm buying a computer and someone on Facebook or Marketplace says, well, I have a can of compressed air, and so because I kept this computer clean, I'm going to charge you 10 times as much. I'm not a PC builder. I don't offer warranties. I don't sell warranties, right? I don't have a business. I'm just a guy with a can of compressed air. And so I'm going to sell you my PC back to you that I paid $750 for $700. This is a form of economic inefficiency, right? It's not talking about actually one of the things that drives a lot of geopolitical competition, which is competition for scarce resources. It's competition for scarce resources. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Wotan. Hey, what's going on? Bell loves Burzum. I don't know who Wotan is, but yeah, shout out to you. What's up? Yeah, what's up? Oppose ICE. Yeah, oppose ICE and Officer Scrotum Nuts is what I would say. I don't know if that's what we're talking about, but yeah. Thanks, Amberlin Deep Feed. Yeah, it's a very kind statement, I guess. All right, guys, we're going to end the live pretty soon here. Subscribe to the channel. I'm probably going to go on Restream. I'm going to go into the actual studio, guys. I love this format. I love being able to connect directly with you guys. But yeah, I'm probably going to go onto Restream and do a more formal stream tonight. We shouldn't be investing so much money into political campaigns. What do you think? I don't care. It's your money, right? We should, yeah, I think if we align on the big issues, I have an efficiency mindset for politics. That's not true. There's 5 people here, Animator. There's 5 people here. So, yeah. I don't know if you're criticizing or observing or offering to help, but no one asked for help. So, but yeah, if you're just describing what's going on, there's 6 people here. There were 5 before. There's going to be 1 person here in a minute, right? You guys can stay and hang out. But yeah, I have an efficiency mindset in politics. You guys may not like this. I think it's more fun this way, actually. I think it's more exciting when we're talking about how do we actually get exciting candidates like Zoran Mamdani, and MAGA Republicans. I'm not in New York. I don't care what New York does. I'm in Arizona. I don't care what Republicans, conservatives, libertarians, Democrats, blah, 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 blah. These hawkish guys, I care what you do. I don't want to spend more money on the military. These guys are morons. They're idiots, right? And so, in my opinion, my view, when we focus on the big issues, we say keep Washington out of our local politics. Let's make sure the Fed, right? Let's make sure these central banks, they're not planning stuff. Let's make sure we're not doing technocracy central planning. Let's make sure people aren't lying in the public markets, right? They're not stealing people's money, and they're not telling you to vote against the environment. They're not telling you every dollar and cent votes against the environment. It votes against animal liberation. It votes against people you've never met, that you've never actually thought about, right? Let's focus on the big issues and be efficient then. When we say Donald Trump and MAGA, you guys don't need to be in Arizona. You don't need to be Oregon, Washington, California, right? California. You wanted California? You did or you didn't want California? You 9/11 conspiracy theorist hacks. You blah, blah, blah. You superstitious shills. I can't even talk. I'm not the moron here, but I can't even talk. That's how dumb this is. And so, yeah, you guys can go wherever you want. You guys can go to Florida. You guys can go to Alabama, Arkansas, the Bible Belt. I don't care, right? We can have different beliefs, but stay out of my politics. Stay out of my politics. Yeah, there's shoes behind me. We got shoes. Guys, how's it taste? How's it smell, guys? So what do you guys think? I'm asking, do you think ideologues should be doing local politics? Is everything centrally planned? What is it? It's about democracy. Nationalists have these big fears and threats. They want to spend your money some way, or it's the opposite, right? These democratic socialist candidates have ideas to fix problems. They don't actually know about it. They don't care. How does it actually happen? How's it going to work? I'm in Arizona. What do I do? Hey, what's going on, Chalk Fable? Yeah, you ironically wear actually longer sleeve shirts, right? If you're, true Arizonans. Look, I had 6-pack for summer. I had muscle shirts. You guys can see I'm this kind of middle-aged, overweight, rich white guy now. So I'm sorry for that, but yeah, if you're in Arizona, you actually wear an extra t-shirt. Nationalism bad. Yeah, nationalism bad. Orange buffoon bad. These MAGA buffoons, stay out of my cities. I don't want your religious bigotry. I don't want your longitudinal, your wherever it drifted, your fascism, right? Whatever goes on in your head, in your own home should stay there, right? Not my problem. Not my problem. Look, I don't mean to be the red pill, alpha, sigma, masculine, beta simp, whatever. I'm sick of fighting. Keep whatever goes on in your weird ass head in your own home. When you're doing Jenny Craig, or you're doing fresh fish stick delivery service. I don't care. None of this has to do with me and my identity. None of this has to do with my ideology, my political beliefs, my taxpayer dollars, my view of getting along, of individuals all around the world getting along, the fact that nature is more important than me or you. I don't care about that, right? I don't care about that. So keep your stuff out of my cities. You guys will find excuse after excuse after excuse. You guys don't talk about John Wise. You don't talk about John Locke. And you certainly don't talk about Hobbes and Rousseau. So stay out of my city. You guys don't appreciate what politics is. Keep these guys out. I don't want it. I don't even want you in Washington, but we're saddled with this hard problem of tolerance, the philosophy of tolerance. So stay in Washington, right? I want to see you lose repeatedly there because you didn't have a good idea in the first place. You're creating these political debts. You're creating these economic debts there. Get out. I don't want you there. So that's all I'm saying. My ex is from Peoria. Yeah, Peoria. Cool. Yeah. I believe that's in the West Valley. Yeah, we're a cool area. Peoria's got some of the big sports training complexes and stuff. It was really cool time, really cool time. Arizona, we've got a bunch of companies. It expands. It's a valley. It's growing out. Crazy stuff, right? Crazy stuff. But yeah, you have more affordable housing out in that side of the valley. Really cool shopping districts, really cool entertainment venues, bars, all kinds of stuff. Great place. I don't get out there that far, right? I'm right next to it. I could hop in my car, drive for 30 minutes, go out there, whatever, 45 minutes. I don't, it's not, I don't see it. If you got tickets to an event or something, maybe you'd go to Peoria. You would, you'd say, hey, let's, you want to go downtown, you want to go out to Glendale, Peoria, whatever, you want to go watch monster trucks, or you want to go watch soccer, you want to go watch a boxing match, whatever. Let's go to Peoria. Let's go to Glendale. Cool stuff down there. But, in Phoenix, where I'm from, you can go get, just where I am, you can go get craft beer. You can go get, I can get my vegan hamburgers. I can get a non-alcoholic beer or whatever it is, all this kind of stuff. You're talking about DC or Washington State. Washington, yeah, I've never been to Arizona myself, but California and Texas are the closest I've been. Hey, what's going on, Marcos? Yeah, California, California, great place. Yeah, I've been to Burbank. Burbank is like the Hollywood capital of the world. Very cool place. Yeah, I used to have a customer in Burbank, California. A lot of fun. Loved that job. Loved getting to fly out to Burbank, California. I've been to San Diego. Old Town San Diego is really cool. Santa Monica in Los Angeles. Doing the whole Universal Studios tour and just going to LA, right? Driving through LA. Man, definitely a task, but LA is a super cool city. California is a lot of cool. Once you end up where you live, once you end up in your place, it's walkable. You don't have to have too big of expectations. It's still kind of fun, exciting. I love California. Santa Barbara, one of the most beautiful cities I've been in. Lompoc, you can go up to the wine country in Central California. Napa, I've been up all the vineyards. And then I had a friend getting a PhD actually in the sort of Stockton, Oakland area in Northern California. My friend was getting a PhD. My other friend that she lived with was getting a bachelor's degree at the time. We were all doing so cool stuff. But I've been up to Davis, Stockton, Oakland. I've been to San Francisco. I used to work in San Mateo actually. I'm a former tech guy, right? That's how I'm a rich white guy. I'm a former tech guy, so I worked in San Mateo. So yeah, California is awesome. In the U.S., I appreciated traveling a lot. I wish I had taken a little more from it, but just these cool places in California are awesome. I love it. I was born in San Jose. Cali has a lot of cool places. The biggest issue is air pollution, so much smog. Oh, man. Yeah, it is, right? It definitely makes you think about going to the beach or getting a taco. It kind of makes you think about how you got there, how you're getting around, at least from my perspective. But I mean, it is overshadowed almost by the sort of excitement and beauty of the city. This is what I don't get about all these these VTubers, these new drama streamers and bullshit like this. No offense. Hey, look, I'm an idiot. I'm a moron. I used to watch Jerry Springer. I used to watch Friday night bro dates. I'd watch, Dave and Sally get together talking about how they're going to make a baby one day. I watch these dumb television shows on just broadcast network But yeah, these people that go through and they're like, well, you got to look at Skid Row. You got to talk about homelessness. You got to focus on the bad. You know, this is what MAGA does. This is what Donald Trump does. This is what social media can do for you is you give everyone else your problems you don't want to solve. You ship more problems out. Hey, look, you know how I grew up? My dad taught me I'm replaceable, right? I had a blue collar mindset growing up. I am like this genius tech guy, genius philosopher. You know, I've told you guys this. I'm one of the best in the world at what I do. I've always been one of the best in the world. But my dad taught me you're replaceable. And I picked up, I added on this. You don't walk past a problem. Do not in my fucking life. You know, this is what I would say if I was on a SEAL team or I was in the CIA, the NSA, one of these things. If I was in government, I would say if there's one fucking time you walk by a problem with a clear, viable solution, you're fucking out. I will never forget it, and I will make sure no one ever forgets it. You will be done. You're not my team if you walk past a problem. And so you want to be a nihilist or something like this with me? That's amazing. That's it. That's all I asked for, right? That's what I asked for. But if you're the person who isn't willing to pass out in your own house, pass out in your hallway because you've decided other people trusted you with their problems and you're not expecting the same out of them, you're off the team, right? You're not part of it. So I don't believe these drama streamers that want to talk about how shitty all these places are. I hate driving in LA, but it's still a place, right? I hate driving in LA. I wouldn't want to move to Los Angeles, but there's 100 million people. There's 10 million people living there, so it's not my place to say. Yeah, I don't believe in Islam, right? Islam is a bunch of superstitious nonsense. Christianity, superstitious nonsense. Get out, right? Do my eyes deceive me? Is my own sense, my own opinions is limited by what the eyes tell or what others see there? I don't think it is, so whatever. Hey, what's going on? Rated PG 69. Great to see you. I watched a lot of dumb TV shows when I was younger. Full House, Family Matters, those sitcoms. Yeah, those are awesome. Route 1 is... Yeah, our Route 1 in Arizona. You guys maybe don't want to hear this, but if you go up north, right, Arizona, people don't know this. We've got the Sonoran Desert, world famous. We share it with Mexico. It's in the U.S., but it's the Sonoran Desert, right? The ecology is part of the land. You know, the U.S. doesn't own the Sonoran Desert. We do, technically, but the Sonoran Desert's this shared zone, this amazing ecology. But if you go through the Sonoran Desert, there's forests, there's rainforests, you know. Arizona is actually at 1,000, 2,000 feet of elevation. The Phoenix Valley is like 2,000. We're the second or third highest baseball stadium in the United States. So for MLB fans, you know, you're going to hit a lot of home runs when you go up to Denver. You know, the old, what is it? John Rocker and Todd Helton, whoever the fuck these guys were on the Rockies. But Arizona is another great place for home run for sluggers. Not that much, but we're 1,000, 2,000 feet up. But yeah, we've got rainforests, we've got real forests. You know, you can go up 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 feet elevation. You know, even Tucson's got Mount Lemmon. You know, people that unfortunately followed the Nancy Guthrie case in Tucson, we've got Mount Lemmon, beautiful place. You know, just south of there, you've got a wine country, Sonoita, Arizona wine country. I love Arizona, man. And then we've got Sedona, right? We've got one of these almost natural wonders of the world. These bright red rocks, totally outside the city, beyond Prescott Valley. You know, you've got hiking, water reservoirs, beautiful place, beautiful country, beautiful place, right? We don't own it, but it's a beautiful place. So I'd encourage you guys to kind of think about being grateful. And there's these small winding freeways, your Route 66, your route, whatever the fuck ever it is. But there's all these winding roads and stuff like this that take you up to these beautiful mountain topologies, these mountain signs, stuff like this. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. This is why people need to stop knick-knacking Hey, I agree, Samuel Chapman, right? Yeah, absolutely. You know, these guys that are, they're counting tiddlywinks, so to speak, right? You know, hey, look, you know, we all got our Oakley sunglasses. We don't all have the microfiber cloth polishing them all the time, guys, right? Men, hey, I'm not about, you know, these no shave Novembers, none of this stuff, but guys, be honest for me and with me for just a second. You know, guys, we are dignified people. We are political people. We were born political. We were born to be just exactly where we are. You don't have to go, you know, you don't have to be doing Barack Obama. You don't have to be doing, Zoran Mamdani bullshit. You don't have to be Karl Marx. You don't have to be any of the greats. You don't have to be Mike. But yeah, just a little self-consideration and stuff like this. Really important, really valuable from my perspective. Introspection. Listen to sad songs. Listen to music. It doesn't have to be about anything. Just let your body do the work. Integrate your brain, all this kind of stuff, guys. I live in Montana. We have some of the best places to drive and see. Hey, amazing. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I'd love to see Montana, South Dakota, North Dakota, Omaha, Nebraska, right? Yeah, that's awesome. How are you? Hey, Janice John, great to see you. I'm good. I'm hanging out. Yeah, it's whatever day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Your day, happy day, guys. Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to subscribe and come back later tonight, I'm getting close to closing the stream down, guys. I'm sorry for those that are just tuning in. It's nice to see you, but we're at 2:25. We're an evidence-based politics, philosophy, religion, just kind of hanging out, talking channel. I'd love to do more of these. Yeah, honestly, guys, I'm playing a character up here, but I'd love to do more kind of chill, fun talks, whatever. Work on my own acting, presentation skills, give a good, fun environment, introduce my actual self to you guys a little bit at a time, and then, yeah, do some good stuff, be able to have these sort of scholastic or evidence-based topics in philosophy, politics, whatever it is, at a level that's just not available everywhere. So I'm going to take off, guys, and yeah, let's have a good one.